Have you ever felt so exhausted that you don't know what you're living for? There are days when we open our eyes, look around the familiar room. Work still awaits. Responsibilities still weigh heavily on our shoulders. But inside, we feel only a vague emptiness. It seems we no longer have the strength to carry on, not because there's too much work, but because our hearts haven't found peace. The body can work all day, but when the mind is constantly entangled in a myriad of thoughts, even a small task becomes a burden. What truly exhausts us isn't the workload, but the fact that our mind hasn't found its dwelling place, hasn't found a place to return to. Long ago, the Buddha once said, "Humans are like a river. When the water is clear, it can reflect the entire sky. But when the water is murky, one only sees blurriness before their eyes." Our mind is similar. If it remains muddied by worries, anger, and attachments, we will feel life is truly heavy. But when we learn to let go, to breathe, to return to the present moment, the mind will gradually clear, like the calm surface of an autumn lake, reflecting the full, perfect moon. Some have shared that they are exhausted, not from working all day, but because they constantly fear losing what they have. That silent fear gnaws at them, preventing them from resting, even when sitting still. We will see that true exhaustion doesn't come from external factors, but from inner disquiet. If one day you feel you no longer have the motivation to continue, try stopping for a moment, closing your eyes, and taking a deep breath. Recognizing that very breath is also a miracle, for we are still alive, still have the opportunity to rediscover tranquility. From that dwelling place within your breath, you will find you are no longer alone. Hope begins to ignite, like the morning light illuminating a garden after a long night. In that moment, you will realize that peace doesn't lie in completing all responsibilities, but in knowing how to return to yourself. And as the mind gradually finds peace, everything external naturally becomes lighter, like a bird soaring in the open sky. You are watching on the Lin Buddhist Dharma channel. Have you ever wondered why, in this era of abundant conveniences, some people still feel more tired, lonely, and exhausted? We have smartphones for instant connection, fast means of transportation, better conditions for eating, dressing, and entertainment compared to our ancestors. Yet it seems the more we live in modernity, the heavier our hearts become. It's no coincidence that today terms like exhaustion and stress appear so frequently. In everyday life, there are people who live in comfortable homes, not struggling like farmers of old, but still feel that every morning they wake up, it's a battle with themselves. Let's imagine a morning for a young city dweller. They open their eyes. The first thing they do is pick up their phone to check dozens of unread messages, work emails waiting, and a barrage of notifications from social media. Before even getting out of bed, their mind is already full of anxiety and pressure. Then they arrive at the office. Around them are signs of weariness, comparing gazes, and subtle races for promotion. When they finish work, instead of resting, they rush into fleeting entertainments to fill the emptiness. Day after day, that cycle turns them into a machine that runs while slowly depleting its vitality. From the outside, we might think they live full lives, but inside, they feel lost, like a small leaf drifting in a turbulent river, not knowing where the true shore is. The Buddha once taught that body and mind always go hand in hand. If the mind is not at peace, the body can hardly be healthy. People today, though they labor less physically than before, toil mentally many times over. An office workday may seem light, but if the mind is constantly tense, constantly fearing mistakes, fearing losing one's position, it's more exhausting than a farmer's day of deep plowing and tilling. Therefore, some people feel weary and lack vitality, even if they do less work. Try to recall an autumn afternoon when you sat by the window, watching a yellow leaf fall from its branch. That leaf had done nothing wrong. It simply detached from its source because autumn arrived, floating gracefully with the wind. Human life is similar. Amidst the hustle and bustle, if our mind cannot find a refuge, we will feel lost, easily swept away by countless worries. The body's fatigue can be rested away, but the mind's fatigue is incessant, making us lose sight of life's meaning. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught, "Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is their chief. They are all mind-wrought. If with a pure mind one speaks or acts, then happiness follows one like a shadow that never leaves." That teaching remains invaluable in today's world. We may have all the conveniences, but if the mind is not cared for, not nourished by tranquility, all modern things are just a fragile shell, unable to shelter a tired heart. Some people think that if they work less and rest more, they will be less exhausted. But then they realize that even when sitting still, their mind is still a storm. Unceasing thoughts and worries about the future prevent them from finding peace. Therefore, the problem is not in the quantity of work we do, but in the turmoil of the mind. Just like a lake, even if no one stirs it, if the wind blows, the water still becomes choppy. The wind in one's heart is those delusions and attachments that have not yet been released. The Lin Buddhist Dharma channel once heard a story about a middle-aged woman who had a stable material life and a not-too-stressful job, but she always felt tired. She shared that even though she only had a few small things to do each day, she always felt like she was in a constant race. The simple reason was her mind. She always focused on the past and the future. She regretted things that had passed, feared things that had not yet come, and thus never truly lived in the present. When advised to practice sitting still and breathing, she initially laughed, considering it useless. But after only a few weeks, she realized that simply inhaling and exhaling mindfully changed her mind completely. She said that for the first time in years, she felt truly alive, truly touched by a simple peace. This shows that the exhaustion of our era is not due to the quantity of external work, but because we have lost the ability to turn inward. People of old, though they labored hard, could still sit on their porch in the evening, gaze at the moon, and listen to the chirping of crickets, their souls settling. But we, amidst bright electric lights, noisy traffic, always with a phone in hand, find it hard to have any truly tranquil moment. What our era lacks is not material things, but a quiet space for the soul. Perhaps each of us has occasionally felt like a lost leaf in the current of life. But it is also from this that we have the opportunity to recognize the need to find a place of peace again. That is not a distant place, but a dwelling within this very heart. The Buddha once taught, "Return to take refuge in yourself, for no one else can bestow peace and happiness upon you but yourself." So when you feel tired, don't rush to blame life for being too harsh, and don't rush to think you are incompetent or weak. Try asking your mind, has it truly found peace? All the conveniences of this era are truly meaningful only when we have a stable inner self, a heart that knows how to let go and accept impermanence. When the mind is nurtured in mindfulness, all pressures will gradually melt away, replaced by a lightness, like the gurgling of a stream in a deep forest, like sunlight filtering through leaves, warming a crisp morning. If you are hearing these words while feeling exhausted, I want to tell you that you are not alone. So many people are sharing this same experience, but so many have also found the path of awakening to walk freely through life. That light is still waiting for you. You just need to turn inward and listen to yourself. Perhaps all of us have had sleepless nights. Even though the body is exhausted, sleep still won't come. Eyes closed, but the heart is full of worries, thinking about tomorrow, with so many unfinished tasks, thinking about words left unsaid, thinking about a vague fear that cannot be named. And then, waking up the next morning, the body is tired, the mind heavy, and even food no longer tastes good. Sometimes, even when sitting at a lavish party, we still feel empty, joy fleeting, and then vanishing like bubbles. That is a manifestation of a restless mind. The tiredness lies within, not without. A person can do little work, even without much effort, but still feel exhausted. Conversely, there are people who work all day in the fields, their hands and feet covered in mud. Yet, in the evening, they eat well, sleep soundly, and the next morning, they have the strength to continue. The difference lies in one side having an inner tranquility that accepts what is happening, while the other allows the mind to drift along invisible currents. This is why the Buddha taught that the root of suffering is not in external circumstances, but in our consciousness. Imagine a lake. When the lake is calm, we can see the moon's reflection, the entire sky mirrored in the water. But when the lake is stirred, the moon is still there. The sky is still there, but we cannot see them. The human mind is similar. Peace is inherently present in the mind, but when delusions, afflictions, and anger arise, the mind becomes murky, preventing us from seeing the peace that is always there. People who suffer from chronic insomnia, loss of appetite, and fleeting joy are actually suffering because their mind cannot find rest. Some ask, so why isn't the mind at peace? The answer can come from many causes. We fear losing what we have. We regret what is past. We long for things that have not yet come. The mind is constantly running back and forth between the past and the future, refusing to settle in the present. Therefore, even when sitting on a comfortable sofa, we cannot relax. That tiredness is like an invisible backpack, always weighing heavily on our backs. We carry it wherever we go, never able to put it down. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha advised us to return to the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena. This means becoming aware of how the body is, what feelings arise, whether the mind is at peace, and what phenomena are occurring. Can we see them clearly or not? When we truly look within ourselves, we realize that disquiet does not lie in our work or circumstances, but in how we face them. A person can experience the same situation, but if their mind is at peace, they see it as normal, while if their mind is disturbed, they see it as a burden. I recall a story about a young man. He had a stable job, a decent salary, but often fell into a state of exhaustion. Even though he didn't do too much work during the day, he tossed and turned at night, unable to sleep. Upon asking, it turned out that his mind was always uneasy, fearing that he would be inferior to others, fearing that he would lose his current position. That fear followed him into his sleep, turning his dreams into escapes. So, day after day, he lived in a vortex of anxiety. Until one day, a friend took him to a pagoda to hear a talk on mindful breathing, and he began to try sitting still and breathing. At first, his mind was disturbed after just a few minutes, but gradually he learned to return to his breath. And he realized that just one peaceful breath was enough to soothe an entire day's fatigue. This shows us that exhaustion doesn't lie in the quantity of work, but in the mind's inability to rest. Whether we enjoy our food or not, whether we sleep well or not, whether we have true joy or not, all stem from the peace of mind. When the mind is at peace, a simple meal becomes delicious. When the mind is at peace, a short sleep is enough to recover. When the mind is at peace, a simple joy can spread widely within. But when the mind is restless, even the finest delicacies won't taste good. Even with a soft bed and warm mattress, one cannot sleep. And even at a lively party with many people, one feels lost. In modern life, many people believe that happiness lies in having a lot of money, status, or relationships. However, if the mind is not at peace, all those things are merely fleeting winds. It's like trying to reflect the moon on a rippling surface of water. Even if the moon shines brightly, we only see distorted streaks of light. True peace is only found when the lake of our heart is calm and clear. The Buddha once reminded us that the mind is the root of all phenomena. If the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. If the mind is disturbed, the world is also disturbed. We often blame circumstances, our work, other people, society. But in reality, the origin of all exhaustion is how we face and react. In the same rain shower, some find it annoying, others find it refreshing. On the same long road, some feel tired, others see it as an opportunity to enjoy the scenery. Therefore, when we change our mind, the world around us also changes. So, when you realize you're not eating well, sleeping restlessly, or experiencing fleeting joy, try looking deep within. Ask yourself, what is disturbing my mind? Is it overly high expectations? Is it an invisible fear, or regrets from the past? When you find the root, you will see that simply calming the mind will gradually make everything clear again, like a lake becoming transparent, so the moonlight can shine through. You don't need to search for peace in distant places. Peace doesn't lie in a vacation trip, nor in escaping your current job, nor in changing your circumstances. Peace is when you stop, breathe, and smile at yourself. Peace is when you know that no matter how many storms rage outside, inside you, there's still a space of tranquility. That space has never been lost. You've just allowed dust to cover it. And when you truly return, you will find that eating a meal can be delicious. A short sleep can be deep. And joy doesn't need to come from anything grand. That joy comes from being fully present in every moment. It is a joy that is not dependent on conditions, not easily lost, because it already resides within your soul. So if today you are feeling exhausted, know that the reason is not too much work, but a restless mind. Just begin to care for your mind again, like tending to a lake to restore its clarity, and you will see that the peaceful moonlight has always shone, never having left. And in that light, you will find the strength to continue, finding the faith that the journey of awakening is still unfolding for you. Perhaps in each of us, there have been times when we wondered why others are more successful than us. Why do they have happier lives? Why can they smile radiantly while we struggle with worries? These questions often creep in when we are at our weakest, seeing a peer with a warm family, a spacious home, a thriving career, or when we look at glittering photos on social media, where everyone seems to be showcasing the most beautiful part of their lives. Then, within us, comparison and envy arise, and soon our joy is eroded by outward glances. Humans have a habit of constantly weighing themselves. We measure what we have achieved, what we lack compared to others. But that scale never stops. Because once the mind of comparison arises, no matter how much we achieve, we still feel it's not enough. It's like someone drinking seawater. The more they drink, the thirstier they become. Comparison is the same. The more we compare, the more uneasy we feel. That is the subtle trap that life and our own mind have set. The consequence of comparison is not just a fleeting sadness. It gnaws at us daily, sowing self-doubt within us. We begin to blame ourselves for not being good enough, not beautiful enough, not lucky enough. These self-reproaches are like sharp thorns piercing the heart, causing us to gradually forget our true worth. Some even live their entire lives in the shadow of comparison, always feeling that others are better than them, only to exhaust themselves in a race that never reaches its destination. Let's look at nature to see a self-evident truth. In the garden, roses bloom in spring, lotuses in summer, chrysanthemums in autumn, and apricot blossoms display their beauty in the cold winter days. Each flower has its own season, its own beauty, and none needs to compete with another. If a chrysanthemum kept looking at a lotus and felt sad, it would never be able to spread its fragrance in autumn. If an apricot blossom kept comparing itself to a rose, it would miss the opportunity to bring joy in the late days of the year. That simple lesson reminds us that each person is also like a flower, blooming in their own season, spreading their fragrance in their own way. There is no need for comparison, no need for competition. Simply, by living fully with oneself, we are already beautiful enough. The Buddha once taught that the origin of suffering is greed, hatred, and delusion, among which comparison is a manifestation of greed and delusion. We crave what others have, and we are deluded into believing that our worth depends on winning or losing against others. But when we look deeply, we will see that no one is alike in this life. Each person has their own karma, their own path, their own blessings. Comparing is like sowing rice seeds in barren soil and then blaming them for not growing like seeds sown in fertile soil. I once heard a touching story about a disabled boy. From a young age, he couldn't walk normally like his peers. For many years, he was sad and frustrated that he couldn't run and play like others. But then one day, he sat watching the wild flowers blooming profusely by the roadside. They weren't tended to. No one paid them attention. But they still grew, still bloomed brightly under the sun. He suddenly understood that he didn't need to be like anyone else. Simply by living his best with his weak legs, simply by smiling, he was enough to be a flower in life. From that day on, he lived more happily, no longer blaming himself and no longer viewing life through the eyes of comparison. That story made me think of adults in the modern age. We may not be physically disabled, but we are spiritually disabled. Because of the habit of comparison, we bind ourselves with invisible ropes of competition, only to lose our inner freedom. But the Buddha taught that only by letting go can we truly be free. Letting go is not defeat, but finding peace within ourselves. When we stop comparing, we will feel much lighter. We no longer have to strain ourselves to catch up with others. We no longer have to torment ourselves when we haven't achieved what they have. We can smile at the success of others, and also smile at our own small steps. At that moment, every day becomes a simple joy. So if you are lost in the whirlpool of comparison, remember that you too are a flower in this vast garden. You don't need to be like anyone else because you have your own season to bloom, your own unique fragrance. As long as you live authentically, mindfully, the day you bloom will brighten your own sky. Each flower blooms in its own season, and so do you. Don't let comparisons sweep away the light in your soul. Return to yourself, cherish the path you are on, and believe that peace always awaits you in every breath. One clear morning, as the first rays of sunlight gently touched the trees still dewy with mist, I saw an old woman step out of a small, simple house. She wore worn-out clothes. Her sandals were no longer new, but her face radiated a strange tranquility. She sat on a wooden chair on the porch, held a warm cup of tea in her hands, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. I heard her whisper, as if to herself, "Thank heavens, today I still get to see the sunrise." Those words echoed within me like a bell. A new day, perhaps to many, was no different from thousands of days past, but to her, it was a gift. In that moment, I suddenly realized a simple truth. Some wealthy people still feel a lack, while some very poor people live joyfully because they know contentment and gratitude. We often feel tired, not because life is too difficult, but because our minds are constantly comparing and craving more. We see others with grand houses and beautiful cars and wonder why we don't have them yet. We see others traveling luxuriously and then look at our own lives and find them bland. In that spiral of comparison, the mind gradually becomes constricted and restless. We keep a small cup in our hearts, but want to pour the entire ocean into it. Thus, we always feel a lack, feel it's not enough, feel that this life is heavy. The Buddha once taught that contentment is wealth. A short saying, but it encompasses a treasure of wisdom. Contentment doesn't mean not striving, but understanding the boundary between aspiration and attachment. When our mind knows contentment, even a humble meal brings happiness. When our mind doesn't know contentment, even with jewels and precious stones, we will never find peace. A person who lives in contentment is the richest, for their treasure lies not in external material possessions, but in the ease of their soul. I recall a Zen story. A student sought to learn the Dharma from a Zen master. The student continuously asked questions, hoping to learn all profound things. The Zen master merely smiled and poured tea into a cup in front of him. The water overflowed, yet the Zen master continued to pour. The student exclaimed in alarm, "Master, the teacup is overflowing. It can't hold any more." The Zen master then calmly replied, "Your mind is like this teacup. It is already overflowing with desires and attachments. How can it receive anything more?" Those words stuck with me. We are tired, not because life gives us little, but because our minds hold too much. To find peace, sometimes we don't need to acquire more, but need to learn to let go of some. Knowing contentment helps us live lightly. But for the heart to truly heal, we also need another companion: gratitude. For only through gratitude can we realize that even suffering is a lesson. Even loss is a gift. There was a poor mother I met on a charity trip in a remote village. Her husband died early, leaving her to raise 3 children alone. Her life was a series of hardships. Yet, in her eyes, I saw no resentment. She recounted, "I am grateful for the hard days. Thanks to them, I learned resilience. I am grateful for my children because they give me a reason to keep living. I am grateful to everyone who ever helped me, and even to those who didn't. Because of them, I understood what it means to stand on my own feet." Hearing her speak, a sense of embarrassment arose within me. Sometimes, in my abundance, I forget life's grace, forget the blessings of simple things. For those with gratitude, even suffering becomes a teacher. The Buddha once taught, "Be grateful even for adversity, for it is adversity that helps you grow." If life were only favorable, we would forever sleep peacefully in tranquility. It is through falls and wounds that we learn to rise, learn patience, and learn to love ourselves. When we are grateful, darkness is no longer an enemy, but a place where light is nurtured. When we are grateful, the heart becomes compassionate, no longer blaming life, no longer lamenting fate. We find ourselves supported by countless wonders. From the drop of water we drink, to the sunlight we receive, to every breath that enters our chest, each thing is a gift. Sometimes I try meditating and practicing gratitude. At first, I thought I should only be grateful for good things, but then I realized that even the things that caused me pain also needed to be acknowledged. Because it was thanks to those dark days that I learned to appreciate the bright mornings. It was thanks to failures that I understood the value of success. It was thanks to those who once made me sad that I learned to love unconditionally. With such gratitude, we will stop complaining, stop demanding, stop searching for happiness far away, and find happiness right in the present moment. If you are going through heavy days, try being silent for a moment. Place your hand on your chest and whisper thanks that this heart is still beating. You are still alive, still breathing, which means you still have the opportunity to renew yourself. Every breath is a miracle. Every smile is a gift. Every tear also has its own meaning because it proves you still have a heart that can be touched. When we are grateful for both joy and sorrow, Nothing can exhaust us, because all our teachers, all our dharma, all lead us closer to awakening. Someone once asked me how to know if one has truly found contentment and gratitude. I simply replied that when you can sit peacefully by a cup of tea, watch the leaves fall, hear the wind blow, and your heart feels no lack, no comparison, that is contentment. When you can smile, even if today is full of challenges, because your heart is filled with gratitude, that is gratitude. No need to wait until you are wealthy to be content. No need to wait until suffering ends to be grateful. Contentment and gratitude are ways to turn every ordinary moment into a miracle. And finally, I want to whisper to you that we are all on a journey of returning to ourselves. Every step on that path, if illuminated by contentment and supported by gratitude, will allow us to pass through life's rugged terrain with peace. Contentment lightens the heart. Gratitude opens it wide. Both intertwine to become a lamp, illuminating our heart in the darkness of night. At that time, weariness gradually dissolves, disquiet settles, leaving only a warm peace radiating throughout the body. Believe that within you, there is always a tranquil sky. You just need to stop, gently take a deep breath, and whisper thanks. That door to peace will open itself, and you will realize that true happiness has never left. It is always right here, in every breath, in every sip of tea. In every moment, you know contentment and gratitude. Perhaps in life, each of us has at least once asked ourselves where true happiness lies. Some believe that happiness comes only with a spacious house. Some believe that happiness is having a lot of money in hand. Others wait until they find an ideal partner, or until their children succeed, before allowing themselves to smile with satisfaction. But even after many years, we still feel something missing, still feel an uneasiness creeping into our hearts, making that happiness seem to only come and then vanish, never staying for long. I once heard a simple yet profound story. A young Zen student asked his teacher, "Master, what must I do to be happy?" The teacher smiled kindly, not answering immediately, but offered the student a glass of water. In the glass, a fallen leaf floated. The teacher asked, "Do you see the leaf?" The student nodded. The teacher said, "It fell from the branch. It doesn't need to search anywhere far. It simply abides in the water, drifting freely." Happiness is the same. Don't seek it in tomorrow. And don't wait until you have all conditions met. For happiness is present in your very breath, right at this moment. Those words made the student silent for a long time. And I believe they can make us think too. Because in life, we often rush forward, thinking that only by completing tasks, only by having enough assets, only when the road ahead shines brightly, can we rest in peace. But the Buddha once taught, "Do not seek happiness in the future, for the future has not yet arrived. Happiness can only be experienced in the present moment." Try sitting for a moment and observe. When we inhale, we know we are inhaling. When we exhale, we are aware we are exhaling. In that very moment, if we are truly present, we will feel lighter within, our body more relaxed. That is simple yet profound happiness. No other conditions are needed. No need to wait for tomorrow. No need to depend on anyone. Happiness lies in the ability to stop, in the ability to be grateful and cherish every breath, every ray of sunlight, every bird song in the garden. Many people have lived half their lives, only to realize that everything they chased after was ultimately just distant dreams. But true happiness was always right beside them. In every small thing, a warm meal with parents, with loved ones, an afternoon breeze by the window, an early morning rooster crowing to announce a new day. But because the mind is not at peace with happiness, we keep thinking we don't have enough, that we need something more to be complete. And that very thought exhausts us, because the more we chase, the further we drift from the happiness that is already here. In Buddhist scriptures, there is a familiar saying, "Mind is sick. The world is sick." When our mind is at peace, even in a bustling city, we feel light. When our mind is disturbed, even in the tranquility of mountains and forests, we cannot find joy. So where is happiness? It is not in some distant land, not in a far-off future, but in our very heart. It is where we stop, take a deep breath, and realize we are alive, present, and have the opportunity to love. I remember once passing through a rice field during harvest season. The fragrant scent of rice permeated the wind. A farmer passing by smiled kindly, drops of sweat on his cheeks glistening in the afternoon sun. He didn't have many possessions, nor did he appear successful in the eyes of the world, but his eyes radiated peace, as if he had found happiness in every swing of his sickle harvesting rice, in every heavy breath that smelled of fresh straw. At that moment, I suddenly understood that happiness is not a destination, but a journey. Happiness is when we truly live with every step we take on our path. The Buddha taught that this life is inherently impermanent. What we have today may be gone tomorrow. Loved ones may leave, health may decline, fame may vanish. If we tie our happiness only to these impermanent things, we will forever live in fear, worry, and disquiet. But if we know how to abide in the present, happiness will no longer depend on external conditions, but will become a cool stream flowing from within. So instead of asking, "When will I be happy?" try asking, "Right now, can I recognize happiness?" Because in truth, as long as we are present, as long as we can breathe, hear the wind blow, the rain fall, and feel our heart beating in our chest, happiness is already here. It's just whether we are seeing it or not. When you sit by a hot cup of tea, don't rush to finish it to do something else. Try lifting the cup, taking a slow sniff of the subtle aroma, feeling the warmth spread into your hands, then gently taking a small sip. That is happiness. When you walk outdoors, try to feel your feet touching the ground with each successive step, instead of just thinking about your destination. That, too, is happiness. When you embrace a loved one, don't let your mind wander to work or other worries, but truly be present in that embrace. That is happiness. In fact, happiness has never left us. We just keep rushing around, looking for it, and fail to recognize it. It's like someone standing in a garden full of flowers, who keeps searching for flowers elsewhere, only to return and realize they missed countless beauties right beside them. My friend, if today you feel exhausted, try to stop. Take a deep breath in and gently breathe out. Look around at what you have and be grateful for it. Happiness is like that. It's not in tomorrow, not in some distant place, but in this very moment. And perhaps you will feel a small sense of peace arise, like a bright lamp in the darkness. Let that lamp guide you on your journey of awakening, so that each step is no longer heavy, but becomes light. For true happiness is not a destination, but when we know how to stop, smile at ourselves in every breath, in every moment. Have you ever, in a busy day, suddenly paused and realized how many small moments of life you've overlooked? Sometimes when we're tired, rushing after work, constantly calculating wins and losses, the most ordinary things inadvertently pass by, leaving no trace in our minds. Then, when night falls, in that rare quiet, we suddenly feel an emptiness, a sense of missing something very important that we can't name. People often think happiness lies in something grand, a resounding success, a great dream. But perhaps what truly nourishes our souls comes from moments that are so ordinary, so simple, that if we are not mindful, we will accidentally overlook them. One morning, I walked along a small village path. The trees on both sides were hanging low, green leaves trembling in the morning breeze. A sparrow sang loudly on a tiled roof. The song wasn't particularly special, but it warmed my heart. I saw an old woman selling goods by the roadside. She smiled so gently when a child ran up and offered her a wild flower. That moment was incredibly small, unnoticed by anyone, unrecorded, not even photographed. But in my heart, it was a gift. I suddenly understood that happiness is not far away, but present in every smile, every gentle glance, every soft breath when we learn to slow down. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that one who is content with what they have is truly wealthy. That teaching, at first glance, seems simple, but upon reflection, we realize it touches the core of happiness. Contentment does not mean stopping or giving up, but appreciating what is present. The truly wealthy person is not one who holds many possessions, but one who finds enough in every moment, finding joy in the sound of birds chirping, finding peace when sitting in the shade of a tree, finding happiness in a simple meal with family. These small things are the nourishment for the soul, the cool water in the arid desert of calculations and struggles. Many people often ask why they have achieved many things, yet still don't feel happy. They have houses, cars, stable jobs, loved ones by their side, but their hearts are always restless, always feeling a lack. That is because they have forgotten the ability to feel happiness from small things. They always look ahead, thinking that happiness is a destination, whereas happiness is actually a path. That path is not paved with gold or brilliant, but merely with small stones of everyday life. But when we walk mindfully, each step becomes a song. Each breath becomes a joy. These small moments are the seeds of peace. When you sit on your porch, listening to the gentle pitter-patter of rain. If you allow your mind to return to the present, you will find it to be a gentle melody. When you receive a genuine smile from a stranger, you will feel the whole world suddenly become warmer. When you see a flower blooming by the roadside, if you stop to gaze at it, you will find yourself blooming from within. All these things, if recognized, are happiness. But if we are thoughtless, countless beautiful things will float away like water, leaving nothing in our hearts. In the Anguttara Nikaya, the Buddha once taught about abiding in the present, meaning knowing how to stop and live with what is, instead of constantly running to the past or the future. One who can abide in the present is like drinking every sweet drop of life's nectar. A child playing in the sun with crystal clear laughter sometimes offers the most profound lesson in mindfulness. For children don't think about tomorrow, nor do they care about the past. They live fully in the present moment. As for us adults, the more we grow, the more we lose that. So when we are tired, we sigh and wish we could be as joyful as a child. Do you remember the last time you truly smiled from the bottom of your heart? Perhaps it was when you saw a loved one after a long time, or when you heard a song that brought back memories, or simply when a cool breeze gently touched your cheek on a hot day. These joys, though small, if you keep them in your heart, will become healing energy for an entire day. Conversely, if we keep seeking grand joys, we will forever feel a lack, forever feel that life is suffering. I once spoke with a friend who had just gone through a major upheaval. He said that after losing many things, he suddenly realized the value of a normal meal, of a morning greeting from a neighbor, of the moment spent sitting under a tree, listening to the rustling leaves. These things he once took for granted, never even noticing, but now they had become a great comfort. Hearing his story, I suddenly thought that people often only realize the value of ordinary things when they have lost them. But why wait until loss to appreciate them? We can start today by opening our hearts to embrace every small moment that life offers. In truth, life is not lacking in beauty. It's just that our minds are too busy to notice. One morning, instead of rushing out the door, try stopping for a few seconds, taking a deep breath, and watching the sky gradually brighten. You will feel your heart also brighten. When eating a meal, if instead of eating while holding your phone, you focus on tasting the flavors, you will find the meal infinitely more delicious. When talking with loved ones, if you look into their eyes with full presence, you will find the connection becomes deeper. These are all small moments, but it is they that create a fulfilling life. In every step of the journey of awakening, returning to appreciate ordinary things is an important practice. It helps us break free from the illusion that happiness must come from outside, from material possessions or fame. It reminds us that simply by turning inward, we can touch peace, like a lotus blooming in mud. The ordinary things in life are where true happiness arises. So, my friend, if one day you find yourself exhausted, feeling uneasy, try to stop. Take a deep breath. Listen to the birds singing. Feel the wind gently caress your hair. Smile at a stranger. Say a gentle word to a loved one. Place your hand on your heart and be grateful that it is still beating. These small moments are the miraculous medicine that life bestows upon us. Happiness is not a distant destination, but a seed germinating in every moment. And if we know how to nurture it, it will blossom in our soul, bringing an unshakable peace. My dear friend, have you ever wondered why, in the same circumstances, faced with the same events, some people complain and suffer, while others remain calm, even finding joy in them. For example, during the same rain, some complain, "It's dark and muddy, work is interrupted," while others smile, seeing the raindrops cleanse the dust and refresh the plants. During the same night, some are fearful and anxious, while others quietly gaze at the starry sky and find a miracle in it. In truth, this world does not change according to our will, but our perspective, the state of our mind, entirely determines how we experience life. When the mind is restless, everything becomes a reason for us to suffer. When the mind is at peace, even challenges become a lesson. There's a small story I want to tell. Perhaps you'll see yourself in it. Once upon a time, there was a little boy who was very afraid of the dark. Every night, when his small room was plunged into darkness, shadows covered the walls, and he trembled, not daring to open his eyes. He felt as if there were ghosts lurking, as if the darkness was trying to swallow him whole. He cried out for his mother, wishing someone would dispel the night. But then one day, someone told him, "Try lighting a small lamp and see what happens." He did as told, and strangely enough, the darkness immediately vanished, not because the darkness disappeared, but because the light in his hand was enough to illuminate. And from then on, he understood that the fear was not in the darkness, but in a heart that had no light. That story is also our life. When our mind is full of disquiet, doubt, and anger, no matter how brilliant the world outside, we will only see darkness. But if our mind is bright, if we light the lamp of mindfulness and compassion within ourselves, then even difficult challenges become opportunities for us to learn, grow, and find peace. The Buddha once taught, "When the mind is pure, the Buddha field is pure." This means that if our mind is calm and clear, the world around us will also become peaceful, not because the world changes, but because we see life with new eyes. Try to think, isn't it true that often we are tired, not because there's too much work, but because our hearts are not at ease? When we worry, a small matter turns into a towering mountain. When we are annoyed, a casual remark from someone is enough to hurt us. When we are uneasy, even the sound of the wind startles us. Conversely, when the mind is settled, even criticism does not shake us, and failures do not lead to despair. Like a calm lake, even if the wind blows, it only creates ripples that then dissipate, unable to muddy the entire lake. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha taught that no enemy in this world can harm us as much as our own misguided thoughts. When I heard that, I reflected on myself. For years, I thought the cause of my suffering was others, circumstances, or fate. But ultimately, the root lies within my own mind. If I know how to keep my mind calm, no one can make me suffer. Conversely, if I let my mind be agitated, the whole world becomes an enemy. So how can the mind find peace? It's not an overnight task, but it starts with very small things. When your mind is restless, try to stop, take a deep breath, and listen to your breath. Just by returning to the breath, our mind becomes less agitated. When someone says harsh words, instead of reacting immediately, let silence embrace you. Then smile gently. When facing difficulties, remind yourself that this is not an enemy, but merely a lesson for you to learn more about your own strength and wisdom. When the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. When we look at life with compassionate eyes, we will see that everyone is struggling with their own suffering. And from that, we blame less. When we look at life with gratitude, we will see that even seemingly small things are priceless gifts. When we learn to let go, we will realize we are lighter, no longer bound by old wounds. And when we learn to live mindfully, every moment that passes becomes a blossoming flower of peace. Can you imagine what you would see if you woke up today with a truly calm mind? Perhaps it would be the birds singing on the porch, the sunlight falling on the house, the smile of a loved one. All these things are always present, but when our mind is agitated, we don't notice them. Only when the mind is calm do we see how beautiful this world is. It's like when a glass of water settles, we can see the bottom clearly. The world always has storms. No one can avoid them. But when our mind is steadfast, we are like a captain on the high seas. Even amidst a storm, we hold the helm firmly. That is also a teaching from the Buddha. No one can bring us peace but ourselves. Therefore, the journey of awakening is not about escaping life, but about living in life with a tranquil heart. If today you are afraid, if you are tired, remember the child in the story who was afraid of the dark. Don't try to chase away the darkness. Light yourself up. When you find the light within, the darkness outside is no longer frightening. And when your mind is at peace, you will realize that the world is also smiling with you. My friend, the greatest source of strength is not outside, but in our heart. Every mindful breath, every gentle smile, every gentle release is a flickering lamp. Let your mind become a torch that not only illuminates your path, but also radiates warmth to those around you. Because when one person finds peace, the world around them also gradually becomes peaceful. There are days when we return home after a long journey, our bodies exhausted, our minds chaotic. And the only thing we crave is to sit down in a quiet corner and exhale a long breath. Yet, strangely, even when we recline on a soft chair or lie stretched out on our familiar bed, our hearts still feel no peace. That fatigue does not come from hands that have done too much work, but from a mind that incessantly swirls with worries and sorrows. And it is in that moment of seeming exhaustion that we realize a simple truth. What exhausts us is not life's overwhelming tasks, but that we have forgotten how to breathe peacefully. Do you remember the last time you sat down without your phone, without rushing thoughts, simply listening to your breath entering and leaving your chest? Perhaps it has been a very long time. The modern world pushes us to chase countless sounds, information, messages, and tasks, causing us to lose the gift that is always present: our breath. That breath is life itself, the bridge connecting body and mind, the place we can return to at any time to find peace. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the Buddha taught about the practice of mindfulness, of breathing, as a means to guide the mind back to its dwelling place. He simply instructed that when we breathe in, we know we are breathing in. When we breathe out, we know we are breathing out. That's all. Nothing more complex. But precisely in that simplicity lies a priceless treasure. Because When we truly know we are breathing, the mind is immediately placed in the present, no longer drifting with countless delusions. At that moment, the past no longer holds us. The future no longer pulls us. Only us and our calm breath remain. A presence full of completeness. The Zen Buddhist Dharma channel invites you right now to try sitting quietly for 1 minute. Just 1 minute. Put your phone aside, gently close your eyes, and let your body sit in the most comfortable position. Now, take a slow breath, feeling the cool, fresh air enter your chest. Then slowly exhale. Feel the warmth escaping from your lips. No need to try to control it. Just let your breath be natural, as it is. In that 1 minute, you can clearly hear the rhythm of life pulsating within you, and you will realize that peace is not far away, but right in every breath. Meditating on the breath is not about trying to chase away all thoughts, but about watching them come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. You don't need to fight with your mind, nor do you need to force yourself to become someone else. Just breathe. Just be aware that breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am at peace. Just that simple mantra is enough to soothe the restless waves in the soul. The breath is also like a stream. When you drink fresh water from that stream, you feel your body refreshed. When you breathe mindfully, your mind is also cleansed in freshness. Many times, we think we have to find a distant land, a profound spiritual practice to heal. But in truth, the simplest thing that the Buddha transmitted is this breath, a gift that we always have, but often forget. You can imagine the breath as an anchor for the ship of consciousness amidst a turbulent ocean. When your mind is swept away by anger, stop and breathe. When sorrow makes you want to cry, stop and breathe. When anxiety keeps you awake, stop and breathe. Every breath is an embrace, reminding you that I am here, I am still alive, and this moment is the most precious gift. In the Anapanasati Sutta, the world-honored one further taught, breathing in, I calm my body. Breathing out, I gladden my mind. That teaching is not just theory, but a door leading us deep into experience. For only by directly sitting down, breathing in and breathing out, do we see the marvel gradually unfold. Many people tried meditating for the first time and found their minds even more chaotic. But that is not failure. It is the first step of awakening. Because before, we never realized how noisy our minds were. So how could we know how to care for them? Thanks to the breath, we begin to see the inner reality clearly. Try to imagine an early morning when the sky is still hazy with mist. You sit on your porch, listening to the chirping birds, and let your breath slowly enter and exit. You need nothing more, no gentle music or long prayer, because the most gentle music is the breath, and the most sincere prayer is also the breath. There, you feel you are no longer alone, because you are in harmony with the rhythm of heaven and earth. This breath is not just yours, but the flow of life for all beings. In life, everyone must go through pain, through stumbling. When we lose a loved one, we can feel the whole world collapsing. When we are betrayed, we can feel our heart shatter. But if we know how to return to our breath, even in the darkest night, we can still find a small speck of light The breath is like a kind friend silently holding our hand, reminding us, you still have yourself. You still have this life to continue walking. And it is thanks to the breath that we learn to go through storms without letting the waves carry us away. There is a story that an old Zen master, when about to leave this world, was asked by his disciple, "Master, in your whole life of practice, what is the most important thing you want to convey?" The Zen master smiled and simply replied, "Just the breath." The disciple was surprised. "Just that?" The old master nodded again. "Just the breath. But if you truly live with it, there is nothing else to seek." Hearing that, the disciple burst into tears, suddenly realizing that all Dharma gates, all paths, lead back to that simplicity, returning to the breath and living fully in the present. When you practice sitting down, closing your eyes, and breathing mindfully, you will find your mind gradually settling. Like a lake without ripples, the images of all things become clear. When the mind settles, wisdom shines brightly, and countless complicated problems that once caused you suffering are suddenly seen with different eyes. You realize that often you suffer not because the event is too big, but because your mind keeps tormenting itself, keeps clinging. Thanks to the breath, you learn how to relax, how to let go, how to see things as they are, without adding or subtracting. Human life is impermanent, like clouds drifting and winds blowing. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. But if you know how to live with each breath, you will find every moment precious. Breathing in, you feel grateful to be present. Breathing out, you feel light as you release burdens. At that time, you no longer live superficially, but deeply, mindfully, living as if today were the last day. And because of that, each day is complete. You see, the power of breath and meditation is not found in distant places, but right where you are sitting. You don't need much preparation, no need to seek out sacred sites. Just sitting still, inhaling and exhaling, is enough to touch the realm of pure peace within yourself. And every time you know how to return to your breath, you are planting seeds of awakening in your soul. So, my dear friend, remember that in moments of fatigue, don't rush to external pleasures to fill the void, but return to your breath. 1 minute of sitting still, one deep breath, might be the healing medicine you need. Breathe as if it is your first breath and also your last breath, so that every moment becomes full life. And then you will see that peace is not a destination to reach, but the very journey of breathing and living in mindfulness. There are afternoons when we sit looking out the window, seeing a yellow leaf detach from its branch, gently spinning in the wind, then landing on the ground. That moment is so tranquil, yet it stirs many thoughts in our hearts. That leaf lived its green season to the fullest, once shone brilliantly in the sun, once sheltered the branch and the flowers. And when it was time to leave, it held no attachment, no resentment, simply letting itself go with the wind. We suddenly wonder why humans, when faced with loss or change, find it so difficult to be as light as that leaf. Is it because we haven't learned to let go? So we continue to carry heavy burdens in our hearts? In the scriptures, the Buddha taught that letting go is not an escape, nor is it abandoning life. Letting go is the path to freedom, the art by which the soul is not bound. When we can let go of attachments, we find ease in our hearts. When we can let go of desires, we can feel the happiness of the present. For the root of suffering is mostly not in the events themselves, but in the mind. We always want to hold on, always want everything to be exactly as we think it should be. Imagine a person straining to hold a rope, and that rope is tied to a boat being swept away by the current. The tighter they hold, the more their hands ache, blood seeps out, and the pain is unbearable. Yet, simply by letting go, the pain immediately stops. That is a clear image of this life. We keep trying to hold on to something, someone, a memory, or a desire. And in doing so, we cause ourselves suffering. In reality, suffering does not come from losing, but from our unwillingness to let go. There was once a man who came to the Buddha and complained that his life was full of dissatisfaction. He wished his wife and children were perfect, wished his work went smoothly, wished everyone treated him fairly. But life was not like that, and he suffered because his wishes were not fulfilled. The Buddha listened and then asked, "If you no longer wished for everything to go as you desired, would you still suffer?" The man fell silent, and tears fell. Indeed, letting go of desires is not about ceasing to strive, but about learning to accept impermanence so as not to chain oneself to endless expectations. Letting go in Buddhism is not about coldly turning away from life, nor does letting go mean denying all emotions. On the contrary, letting go is living fully in the present, without allowing the mind to be bound. When we let go, we still love, but do not possess. We still strive, but do not force results. We still live wholeheartedly, but do not allow events to control our peace of mind. Like white clouds in the sky that drift freely. Clouds do not struggle to hold any shape, nor do they regret dissolving into emptiness. Light and free. That is the image of letting go. Many people think that letting go is a weakness, but in fact, letting go requires a lot of strength, because holding on is sometimes easier than letting go. Holding on gives us the illusion of control, but letting go requires faith. Faith that even if we let go, life will continue to flow, continue to operate according to cause and condition. Faith that happiness does not depend on holding on forever, but on the ability to appreciate and then release at the right time. Like that leaf, once it has completed its journey, it releases itself in freedom, and thus the branch has room for new sprouts to emerge. Try to recall a sorrow you once held on to, perhaps an unfulfilled love, a hurtful word, or an unachieved dream. How much did you suffer then because you refused to let go? But one day, when time helped you loosen your grip, when you no longer clung, you felt your heart lighten. And you realized that what caused you pain was not the event itself, but your own hand stubbornly holding on. When you were willing to open your hand, the pain flew away, leaving a vast space for peace. In daily life, there are countless things we need to learn to let go of. Letting go of the desire for others to act as we wish. Letting go of comparisons between ourselves and others. Letting go of past memories that cannot be retrieved. Letting go of the fear of a future that has not yet arrived. Letting go is not to lose, but to gain. To gain freedom. To gain peace. to live fully. Perhaps the greatest gift that letting go brings is returning to oneself, to the present, to the breath that is present. There is an allegorical story that many often tell. A Zen master passed by a river and saw a person carrying a heavy sack full of sand and stones on their shoulder. The person walked, groaning, but absolutely refused to put it down. The master stopped and asked, "Why don't you lighten your burden?" The person replied, "I'm afraid if I put it down, there will be nothing left of mine." The master smiled. "But don't you see that it is precisely that burden that is stealing your freedom?" We are the same in life. We cling to many things that seem precious, but in reality, they only make our hearts heavier. Only when we know how to let go can we truly walk freely. Try to imagine a cloud. When conditions are right, water evaporates from the sea, forming clouds. Then, when the time comes, the clouds turn into rain, falling into rivers and streams, becoming the flow that nourishes all living things. If a cloud kept trying to hold its shape, how could there be refreshing rain? Letting go is not an end, but the beginning of a new journey. Just as clouds release themselves to become rain, leaves release themselves to nourish the earth. We let go to open new doors in our lives. People often say, we suffer because of love, suffer because of hate, suffer because of unfulfilled desires, suffer because of loss. But the root of these sufferings is our unwillingness to let go. The Buddha once taught that all phenomena are impermanent. What comes together must fall apart. What arises must cease. If we know how to live with the spirit of impermanence, we will suffer less. Because we understand that all are continuous flows, nothing belongs to us forever. Therefore, letting go is not losing, but living in accordance with the truth of the universe. Letting go can also start with very small things. When anger comes, instead of holding on to it, we breathe in and breathe out to let the anger pass like a drifting cloud. When criticism comes, instead of dwelling on it, we see it as a passing breeze. When fear comes, instead of escaping, we smile, acknowledge it, and relax. Each time we do this, we are learning the art of letting go, and little by little, our mind will become open and light like the sky. You see, the art of letting go is not something distant. It doesn't require you to go to high mountains or abandon everything. It only requires you to have the courage to look deep into your heart, see the burdens you are carrying, and dare to put them down. When you let go of a part, you gain more freedom. Let go of another part, you gain more peace. Until one day, when you are truly at ease, you will understand that peace has never been far away. It has always been in the gentle release of the mind. Letting go is also a journey. Don't rush to blame yourself if you still cling, for everyone in life has things that are hard to forget. Be patient and practice letting go, little by little, like a gentle breeze sweeping away dust. Then one day, you will feel your heart light and free, and you will smile in serenity. One day, you suddenly wake up feeling too tired of constantly striving to appear strong, striving to please others, striving to hide the wounds in your heart. You laugh when tears well up inside. You say, "I'm fine," while your heart is like a river about to overflow. And then you realize that what exhausts you is not life's harshness, nor too much work, but because you haven't dared to live authentically with yourself. When the heart is squeezed within a hard, artificial shell, it will suffocate and lose its inherent freedom. On an autumn afternoon, someone sat by the window, watching yellow leaves fall from the branches. They suddenly wondered why the leaf could detach so gently from the branch, without regret, without struggle, without clinging. The answer is simple. Because the leaf was living authentically its life cycle. It was verdant when it needed to be. It rejoiced in the summer sun. And when autumn arrived, it calmly let go. Perhaps we humans also need to learn from that leaf that awakening is not about trying to become someone else, but about courageously living authentically with ourselves. The Buddha once taught not to try to paint oneself a perfect image to be praised by others, because that is merely a mask that makes us more tired. In the Satipatthana Sutta, he advised everyone to return to observing the body, feelings, mind, and phenomena, meaning to return to oneself, to recognize the truth within, whether it is joy or sorrow, strength or weakness. When we try to look directly at our weakness, we truly understand that it is also a part of us, and there is nothing to be ashamed of. A young woman once recounted that throughout her 20s, she always forced herself to appear optimistic. Friends saw her always smiling. But when she returned to her room, tears streamed down her pillow. She was afraid of being called weak, afraid of being abandoned if she revealed the truth. But the more she tried, the more she fell into despair. One day, during a moment of meditation at a small temple, she heard the abbot's words. "You don't need to be strong all the time, for even a flower branch sometimes withers. Only when you dare to touch the truth in your heart will you find peace." From that day on, she began to practice saying, "Today, I am sad," practicing sharing her heart with those who truly loved her. And strangely enough, as she was honest with herself, her burdens gradually lightened. In life, there are relationships we cling to, even though we know they are no longer healthy for our hearts. We stay only out of fear of loneliness, thinking we must endure for others' happiness, or fearing others' judgment. But my friend, daring to leave things that no longer nourish your soul is not selfishness, but an act of self-love. Like a river, when it flows through barren land, it must find another path to continue flowing. Otherwise, it will dry up. The human heart is similar. It needs to flow to a place of gentleness, nourishment, and the light of true love. The Buddha taught that conditions come together, and conditions fall apart. Impermanence is the natural law. When a relationship, a job, or a living environment is no longer suitable, no longer brings peace, then letting go and moving on is an act of awakening. No one should confine themselves in cages just for the sake of trying hard. Trying to hold on to something that has decayed only causes more pain. It's like clutching a withered flower. The tighter you squeeze, the more your hand hurts. Only by letting go can you feel your hand lighten. There was a middle-aged man who came to a temple seeking peace. He shared that he had lived for 15 years in a cold marriage. Every day, he tried to bear the burden and fulfill his duty, but inside, he was weary, without a trace of warmth. After a long time, He realized that his silence only made his heart harder. When advised to courageously face it, he dared to sit down and talk honestly with his wife. And then they chose to part ways peacefully instead of staying in pain. The day he signed the divorce papers, he cried, but those tears were no longer heavy. He said, "I cried because I knew that I finally dared to live authentically." Living authentically doesn't mean saying whatever you want or doing whatever you want. Living authentically is daring to face your emotions, your wounds, and the deep needs of your soul. Sometimes living authentically is daring to say, "I'm tired." Instead of reluctantly nodding, it's daring to refuse when your heart is full, daring to choose rest when your body is exhausted, daring to admit that you are just a small human, not a superhero. When we can be honest with ourselves, we can truly open our hearts to others. In a moment of tranquility, try placing your hand on your chest, listening to the steady beat. That heart has been with you for so many years, enduring so many burdens that you sometimes don't even realize. It only asks one thing of you: live authentically. Because only when you live authentically can your mind be at peace. And only when your mind is at peace can life truly be a journey worth living. Someone asked, "If I live authentically, will anyone understand me? Will anyone stay with me?" The Buddha once taught that when people know how to live authentically, the universe will send them kindred spirits. They do not come to judge, but to accompany. Just as in a forest, some trees stand alone, but when strong winds come, they often intertwine their roots to endure together. Authentic people will also find such individuals. There's no need to search too hard, just patiently live with yourself, and good connections will naturally appear. One evening at sunset, I saw a young boy sitting by the river, floating paper boats downstream. I asked, "What are you floating them for?" The boy smiled. "I want to send my dreams far away so they can find where they belong." I suddenly thought our hearts are also like those paper boats. If we keep holding on to them, they will never float to the right shore. Only when we dare to let go, dare to live authentically, dare to let them embark, do we give them a chance to be free. My dear friend, awakening is living authentically, not becoming profound, nor pretending to always be at peace, but accepting yourself as you are, accepting both weakness and strength, accepting both bright days and dark days. And from that acceptance, a gentle light will naturally blossom in your heart. That is not a borrowed light from anyone, but the warm flame inherent within each person. So if today you are tired from striving, try relaxing your shoulders. If you are staying in something that withers your heart, try allowing yourself to move on. And if you are confused, not knowing the right path, remember that the true path always begins with being honest with yourself. Let your mind rest in truth. Let your eyes see life with an unclouded clarity. Let your hands release unnecessary things, and let your heart beat once more to the rhythm of freedom. When you live authentically, you no longer need to chase anyone's validation, no longer have to fear others' gazes. You become authentically you in simplicity, in sincerity, and in that very moment, you truly taste the sweet flavor of peace. So if someone asks what awakening is, you can gently smile and say, "Awakening is living authentically." Because only when you live authentically can your mind be at peace. And only when your mind is at peace can life truly be a journey worth living. One afternoon, as dark clouds gathered and the wind roared, someone stood on the porch, looking out at the yard. Every branch trembled, every leaf was swept away, unable to resist. But amidst that sky, a pine tree stood firm. Even as the storm raged, it did not sway. The person suddenly thought, can humans learn a simple yet profound lesson from the pine tree? To stand firm amidst the storm? Not because storms don't come, but because its roots are deeply planted. Its trunk has been tempered through many seasons of wind. That is the image of a peaceful mind, a heart that knows how to maintain inner peace. Even when life outside is turbulent, we often think that to find peace, we must wait. When life is calm, when suffering is gone, when everything is as we wish. But the Buddha once taught that life is inherently impermanent. Everyone has their share of storms. If we wait for the sea to be calm before living, our entire life will be spent in weary waiting. True peace is not in the absence of storms, but in the mind remaining unshaken even amidst the storm. There was a woman who once recounted that her husband passed away when her child was young. Alone, being both mother and father, bearing the burden of making a living, she often wanted to give up. But instead of blaming fate, she sought refuge at a temple to listen to the teachings of the monks. One time, a master told her, imagine yourself as a pine tree. Storms can shed leaves, but if the roots are firm, the tree still stands. Your mind is similar. If it is rooted in mindfulness, even if life brings storms, you will not fall. Those words gradually sank in. She learned to breathe deeply whenever she was sad. She learned to contemplate so as not to be carried away by fear. After many years, she said she was no longer strong as before, but had learned to be at peace. And that very peace was the strength that helped her raise her children. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that the mind remains unshaken by the 8 worldly winds: gain and loss, dishonor and honor, blame and praise, pain and pleasure. This means that when life brings praise or blame, gain or loss, suffering or joy, we maintain a clear mind, not letting it be shaken. This is not easy, but it is not out of reach either, for its roots are mindfulness and wisdom. When we know that everything in life is impermanent, victory and defeat no longer drive us to madness. When we understand that true happiness is peace, then praise and criticism no longer weigh too heavily. Peace of mind is not indifference. A person with a peaceful mind still feels sad when there is loss, still feels pain when hurt, still cries when their heart is broken. But after the tears, they do not allow themselves to be submerged. They know how to return and care for their heart. They let sadness come and go, like rain. They understand that the sky cannot rain forever, just as suffering cannot last indefinitely. They stand up, wipe away their tears, and continue walking lightly, like the pine tree that remains green after the rain. A Zen master once told a story about a disciple. This man suffered business failures, accumulated massive debt. His wife left, and his young child was sent to his in-laws. He came to the temple weeping, saying, "I've lost everything, master." The Zen master smiled. "You haven't lost everything. You still have your breath. You still have your steps. You still have a heart to learn how to be at peace. It is precisely when you feel you've lost everything that you have the opportunity to rediscover the most precious thing: self-liberation. Hearing that, he was surprised. From that day on, he no longer sought happiness in material possessions as before, but practiced living simply, meditating, and letting go. A few years later, he said he hadn't become richer, but his mind had found peace. And that was true wealth. Life is not always fair, but it is precisely unfairness that teaches us the lesson of peace of mind. If we constantly compare ourselves, we will become exhausted. Those who have more are not necessarily happier. Those who are disadvantaged are not necessarily suffering. Happiness is not in the position we stand, but in how we face life. Just like that pine tree doesn't need to stand in a brilliant flower garden, it remains steadfast in barren, rocky mountains because its happiness doesn't come from the surrounding flowers and leaves, but from the strength in its own roots. Try to remember the times you suffered the most. Wasn't it precisely during those times that you learned how to breathe deeply, how to be patient, how to let go of unnecessary things? The storm, after all, is also a strict teacher. It teaches us to grow, teaches us to be grateful for sunny days, teaches us to appreciate moments of peace. If there were no rain, how would we know the value of the sun? If we had never been broken, how would we appreciate small happiness? One early morning, someone walked in the forest after a heavy rain. Trees were bent, the ground still wet, but the pine tree stood straight, dewdrops sparkling on its branches like jewels. That person suddenly smiled, understanding that the beauty of the tree was not only its stance, but from the steadfastness it maintained through the storm. Humans are similar. We are not most beautiful when we smile in happiness, but most beautiful when we maintain kindness in suffering. The Buddha once taught, "In this body there is light. In this mind there is Buddha." That light is not extinguished by storms. We only need to return and light it with mindful breath. Once the mind finds peace, then amidst life's turmoil, we still walk without fear. A person with a peaceful mind is like someone rowing a boat in big waves. The waves may be high, the wind strong, but if the rowers are steady, the boat still moves forward. My friend, each of us will have stormy days. No one can avoid suffering. But remember, storms only make us lose a few leaves. They cannot uproot us. If we know how to keep our mind at peace, then like that pine tree, the more storms it endures, the deeper its roots, the firmer its trunk. So do not pray for life to be free of storms. Pray for your heart to have enough serenity to pass through storms without being swept away. Happiness is not about being better than anyone, not about how many times we win or lose, but about being able to maintain inner peace amidst changes. When you sit down, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale slowly. You will feel that right at this very moment, there is a peaceful space in your chest. That space does not depend on anyone, is not carried away by the wind, is not lost in a storm. It is always there, waiting for you to return. And when you find it, you will understand that going through storms is not to prove your strength, but to know that peace of mind is the greatest strength. There are days when you are so tired, you don't want to say a word. Work piles up. relationships fray. Loneliness builds up in your chest, making you feel like you're drifting in a murky ocean. Yet, just one compassionate glance, a gentle hand on your shoulder, or someone willing to sit and listen to your unfinished story, and your heart seems to soften. Amidst the storm, sometimes we don't need profound advice, don't need someone to solve everything for us. Just to be understood, to be embraced, is a kind of healing medicine. In Buddhist scriptures, it is taught that a kind word can melt the ice of an entire winter. Love doesn't necessarily have to be something grand. It can be found in a gentle gaze, in the patient breath of listening, in the way of being silent, yet staying by someone's side. The value of love sometimes lies not in material help, but in our full presence in the moment someone else is suffering. That is a miraculous power, a power that can lift a falling soul. Do you remember the last time you truly felt listened to? Perhaps it was when you talked about a small sadness on a rainy day, and someone sat beside you, not interrupting, not judging, just listening until your voice became hoarse. How light that feeling was. Listening is not to reply, but to let the other person see that their pain is not invisible. Someone who knows how to listen to the sorrows of others not only helps them lighten their burden, but also grows themselves. Once, a young man came to a Zen master. He complained that his heart was always heavy because his friends often accused him of being insensitive. His lover said he didn't know how to understand. The Zen master didn't answer immediately. He just poured tea and invited the young man to drink. While the young man spoke, the master listened silently, with kind eyes and a faint smile. After a long while, the young man burst into tears because for the first time in his life, he felt listened to without being interrupted. When tears fell, he realized that he didn't need an immediate solution, but a shoulder to lean on. The master smiled and said, "One who knows how to listen is a mature person. When you listen to the suffering of others, you not only offer them comfort, but also open yourself up." That teaching is the very spirit of Buddhist compassion. Compassion is not pity, nor is it forced giving. Compassion is deep empathy. It is when we see the pain of others as our own pain, and from that, wish to help them lessen their suffering. A handshake, an embrace, a tranquil presence can sometimes have more power than 1,000 words of advice. Think about a river. When a tear falls into the river, it doesn't vanish, but dissolves into the water, embraced by the river. Listeners are similar. They are like the river, allowing others to entrust their tears, their confessions, and from that, lighten their hearts. Complete listening is love, and that love has the power to heal. Someone once said that people are exhausted, not by work, but by a lack of love. That statement is very true. For we can work many days, we can be utterly exhausted, but as long as we have a place to return to, someone to share with, all weariness diminishes. But if we have to bear everything alone, with no one to understand, even a small burden is enough to make us collapse. On the journey of awakening, the Buddha always emphasized compassion. A person with wisdom, but lacking compassion, may find their wisdom cold and rigid. A person with compassion, but lacking wisdom, may become weak and easily hurt. Only when compassion and wisdom go hand in hand do we possess true strength. And compassion itself is the greatest healing medicine, not only for others, but for ourselves. There is an ancient story that a mother, having lost her child, came to the Buddha, pleading in agony for him to save her child. The Buddha did not refuse, but told her to go and get a mustard seed from a family where no one had ever died. She searched everywhere. Everyone was willing to give mustard seeds, but every family had experienced the loss of a loved one. Finally, she realized that death is common to all, not unique to anyone. She returned, tears falling, but her heart felt lighter because her pain was no longer solitary. The Buddha's compassion was not in saving the child, but in helping her see the truth, helping her feel understood in the ocean of human suffering. And it was in recognizing that shared suffering that her heart was healed. Do you see? A compassionate gaze, a hand holding ours when we tremble, sometimes has more power than any medicine. Humans do not inherently need much to be happy. What they need most is the feeling of being loved, accepted, and listened to. When we give someone that feeling, we are not only giving them a gift, but also planting good seeds within ourselves. Imagine if one day you passed a stranger and they smiled at you. That smile could warm an entire heavy day. If you called a sad friend just to say, "I'm here, I'm listening to you," you might have saved them from a night of despair. These small things are the power of love. It is not noisy, not ostentatious, but it penetrates deep into people's hearts like rain soaking into the earth. And then you will realize that when you know how to love, you are also loved. When you know how to listen, you are also listened to. When you give compassion, you are also healing the wounds within yourself. Compassion is not just a gift for others, but also a gift for our own soul. My dear friend, if today you are tired, try reaching out to someone and listening to them, not to forget your own sorrow, but to see that love can heal both. When the heart opens, love will flow through you like fresh water, washing away all dark dust. And you will see that peace is not running away from pain, but embracing it with love. There are mornings when you wake up, quietly watch the sunlight stream through the window, hear the birds singing in the distance, and suddenly realize you have strayed too far from yourself. You chased goals, desires, and worries, only to forget that happiness has actually never left you. It's right there in your gentle breath, in the moment you place your hand on your chest and feel your heart still beating. Many people still think happiness is a future destination. When they achieve their dream job, when they find their ideal partner, when their family is complete, when life has fewer storms, only then will they call it happiness. Yet, as the Buddha once taught, don't seek peace outside, for it lies within your own mind. In truth, peace doesn't come from external conditions, but from how we perceive life. If our mind is restless, even in a magnificent palace, we will feel uneasy. But if our mind is settled, even in a humble dwelling, we can still smile. There is a story the Lin Ung Buddhist Dharma channel once heard about a hermit living in the mountains. People asked him, "Don't you feel lonely living alone in such a remote place?" He smiled kindly and replied, "I have never been lonely because I always have myself. When I sit still, I hear the rustling of leaves. I hear the stream flowing. I recognize my own breath, and I feel I lack nothing. Peace is already here. Those words were gentle, but startling, because we often search too much externally and forget that the closest place, our inner self, is abandoned by us. Have you ever asked yourself, have I truly lived today? Or have I just drifted through a busy routine, like a leaf swept away by the wind, not knowing where I'm going? And have I truly loved today? Or have I merely uttered hasty words, cast indifferent glances, only to feel empty when night falls? We often postpone living, postpone loving, thinking that one day, when things are more stable, we will live fully. But human life is inherently impermanent. No one knows what tomorrow will bring. If we don't live authentically, love truly in this moment, then when will it be too late? I remember once riding on a crowded bus. An old woman sat in the front row, her hand trembling as she held a small handbag. A young man got on, and instead of pushing for a comfortable seat, he quietly sat next to her, smiling and greeting her. Throughout the journey, he listened as she recounted small stories about her life. She spoke a lot, but her eyes sparkled with happiness. When she got off the bus, she took his hand, smiled gently, and said, "Thank you for listening to me." I suddenly realized that to live authentically and love sufficiently, sometimes it's simply like that, being present for someone, listening to them so they feel seen. The Buddha once taught that the breath is the anchor that holds us in the present moment. When we breathe mindfully, we no longer wander in the past, nor worry about the future. We feel we are here, truly alive. Happiness is not waiting for something to come, but the ability to recognize beauty in every moment. A falling leaf, a warm cup of tea, an embrace, a smile can all become happiness if we are truly present. But people often forget that. We pass through so many beautiful scenes, but our minds are preoccupied with unresolved problems. We sit next to loved ones, but are busy looking at our phone screen. We eat a meal, but don't truly taste it, because our minds are still wandering about tomorrow. Thus, even if we have everything, we still feel a lack because our minds have never stopped to live fully. And then we think happiness is somewhere far away, while it has always been right here. A Zen master once said, "Tomorrow is not certain to come, but today is here. So why not live for today, completely?" That saying reminds us that life is short. Every breath is precious. If we know how to return, how to smile at ourselves, then every moment is happiness. One autumn afternoon, I sat in the park watching yellow leaves fall with the wind. A little boy ran to collect the leaves, his eyes sparkling as if he had just found a treasure. I suddenly felt that in that moment, the boy was living more authentically than many adults, because he wasn't constantly worrying about tomorrow, nor regretting yesterday. He simply saw the leaf as beautiful and was happy. So, living authentically is like that, daring to let your heart be touched by simple things. My friend, returning to yourself does not mean abandoning life, but living in life without letting your mind be swept away. When facing difficulties, instead of complaining, we can take a deep breath and ask ourselves, what can I learn from this challenge? When encountering someone who hurts us, instead of harboring anger, we can ask ourselves, how can I love them and love myself so as not to suffer more? When feeling uneasy, instead of seeking something external, we can sit down and listen to our breath to realize that peace has never left us. Peace does not lie in life having fewer storms, but in how we navigate the ship of our soul. If we know how to anchor ourselves in every breath, every step, we will not be swept away. And when we learn to ask ourselves every day, have I lived authentically today? Have I loved enough today? We will gradually learn to live mindfully, not wasting time. You can try tonight before going to bed. Sit still and ask yourself those two questions. Don't judge and don't blame. If the answer is not as expected, just be honest, just realizing that is a step back. Tomorrow, you try again, a little each day, and you will feel your heart soften, feel life become warmer. My friend, the journey of returning to yourself is not a distant destination, but every small moment in life. Happiness is not in a faraway place, but right in the breath you inhale, in the presence you give to your loved ones, in the way you smile at yourself. When you truly live and truly love, you will find peace is always within reach. There are days when you lie down, close your eyes after a long day, and ask yourself why you feel so utterly exhausted. Today's work wasn't any more than usual. The tasks weren't overwhelming either. Yet, your heart feels heavy, tired, as if you've just endured a major storm. And then you realize that what wears you down isn't the amount of work out there, but a mind that hasn't yet found peace, hasn't yet settled, hasn't yet let go of worries, fears, and unanswered desires. The Buddha once said that suffering doesn't come from the external world, but from how our mind perceives that world. When the mind is full of afflictions, even a small stone can stir the surface of a lake. But when the mind is tranquil, even a strong wind only creates a few ripples on the water before it settles back into stillness. We are tired, not because life is too harsh, but because within us there are too many unresolved attachments. Have you noticed that there are times when you do a dozen things in a day, but still feel light because your mind is at peace, free of worries? But there are also days when you don't do much, just sit and ponder and worry, and your body feels utterly weary. This proves a simple truth. True exhaustion doesn't come from a lot of work, but from a restless mind. And the journey of awakening that we have been taking together from previous parts is the journey of learning to return, to let go, and to smile at life. The Lin Buddhist Dharma channel remembers a time when a friend confided in me that she used to think if she just worked her hardest without stopping, she would soon have a complete life. But the more she chased, the more exhausted she felt. One afternoon, on her way home, as she stopped in front of a blooming, flamboyant tree, she suddenly realized that she had missed too much beauty in life just because she was always rushing forward. In that moment, she sighed and then smiled gently. From then on, she learned to slow down, learned to breathe, learned to appreciate every small thing. And strangely enough, as her mind gradually settled, the tiredness she used to feel no longer weighed her down as before. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha clearly pointed out that the root of suffering is craving and clinging. When we desire too much, when we cling too tightly, our mind will always be restless because life is inherently impermanent. Conversely, if we practice letting go, practice being at ease with gain or loss, victory or defeat, we will find our hearts as light as the clouds in the sky. Letting go is not giving up everything, but not allowing external things to bind our inner self. When the mind knows how to abide in mindfulness, we still work, we still live life, but we are no longer pulled along in the exhausting whirlwind. My dear friend, the journey of awakening is not a path paved with flowers, nor is it a place where we will no longer suffer. It is a path of awareness, of returning. Whenever we feel our mind is restless, let's stop. Take a deep breath, smile at ourselves, and whisper, "I have returned home." Because our true home is not in distant places, not in a future that has not yet arrived, but precisely where the mind abides in every present moment. You can imagine our mind like the sky. Sometimes there are dark clouds, sometimes storms. But the essential nature of the sky has never lost its vastness. Similarly, within you, there is inherently peace. There is inherently light. It's just that layers of worry have obscured it, making you forget. And the journey of awakening is gradually removing those layers of clouds to see the light that is inherently within. One morning, try stepping outside, taking a deep breath of the scent of grass and trees after the rain, and feeling the freshness in every dewdrop. One evening, try sitting still, turning off all noise. Just listen to your heart beating, and you will realize that peace is not something grand, but simply the ability to return. When we know how to return, we will no longer chase after distant places, because everything is already complete. The Zen Buddhist Dharma channel hopes that, after walking this journey together, you have understood that what exhausts us is not too much work, but a restless mind that has not learned to settle. And it also hopes that from today, you will allow yourself to live a little differently, to chase less, to weigh less on your heart, to be less stubborn. Instead, practice returning to your breath. Practice letting go of what is no longer necessary. Practice smiling at simple things, a small flower blooming by the roadside, a gentle breeze passing by, a sincere glance, a warm embrace. All can become healing gifts if you are truly present to receive them. And every day, when you ask yourself, have I lived authentically today? Have I loved enough today? You will find that the path of awakening is no longer distant, but is unfolding right in your everyday life. My dear friend, I wish that in every moment hereafter, you will always find the light of peace within your own heart, so that even if life outside changes and storms still exist, within you there will still be a dwelling place, a place where you can return at any time to be healed, to be loved, to be free. If you find that the shares on this journey have brought you empathy and a little peace, please join me in nurturing that energy every day. Subscribe to the channel so we can continue to accompany each other, learning how to return, how to let go, how to smile at life. And in every moment, you will find that awakening is not something distant, but is the full presence right in this moment, right